Hello, and welcome back to Jane Doe Reads. I am Jane Doe, here for your reading needs. As always, I do have permission from the lovely author, QueenStarrOfTheUniverse, to post their fic here on YouTube. Now, oh my goodness, it's been a hot minute. It's been a hot minute. I just got done with a very long paper that I've never written in the style of, so I've been cramming. College is going great though, but anyway, I could ramble on a little bit later. So let's get on to the fic. On screen for you guys today are the tags of the fic. Please look over the tags. The ones that are bolded are the ones that I think are the most important. I just want you to know what you guys are getting into. Please read, pause, do whatever, read it. Tags are important. They tell you what's this fic about, as always. But let's get on to the fic. It's gonna be a long one. Woohoo! This is Adventures of the Screwed Up Clone. No! Adventures of the... Why do I want to say the? Adventures of a Screwed Up Clone by QueenStarrOfTheUniverse. Chapter 8. Welcome to Gotham. Ignore the dead body. It was certainly an overreaction. Dani knows that. She was just overwhelmed, and all the emotions were jumbled inside of her, and she didn't know how to deal with it, so she didn't react well at all. Jazz doesn't need to keep reminding her. She knows. The first couple of days back in the zone, Dani was irritable and frustrated. Dani let her spar with him for hours. Cujo let her give him ample pets between long rants, and she spent time in her room glaring at the wall until she felt her emotions settle and she could think about it more rationally. When she finally hunts down Jazz to tell her what happened in Bloodhaven, the redhead just rolled her eyes, making some comment about how similar she and Dani are, and then talked her through it. The next few days, Dani follows Jazz's advice to let herself relax and give her emotions time to sort themselves out. She works on her maps, spars with any ghost that'll let her, and helps Dani with the masking device. By helping, she of course means bothering him between rounds of gaming with his friends. It takes Dani until the Sunday night, a little over 2 weeks after Dani first left, to complete the masker. They test it in the Keep, then in Amity, then in a random field in Kazakhstan, and all 3 places adequately scramble her signal. None of the Fitton tech can pick up on her, and neither can the single scanner Dani nabbed from an agent in town. With a clear bill of health, and a safety endorsement from Clockwork, and her shiny new, read scruffed and holding together by a prayer, watch packed with the Fitton tech, Dani is ready to go back to the mortal realm. The longer she stayed in the zone, the more she missed Dick. The more she thought about staying at his house in Gotham, doing all the things they've been doing in Bloodhaven, but in a new city. And the more she wanted it. So, when she's given the all-clear, she packs up her bag and gets ready for her new adventure. "Come to me if you need anything," Dani tells her. "Anything at all. Are you sure you don't want a phone? It'll only take a little bit to get you one and have Tuck get it working for you."
"I'm fine,"
Dani assures him for the 100th time.
"I'll lose them anyway, and I don't want to wait."
"I worry, Elle." Dani rolls her eyes. Only Team Phantom are allowed to call her that, and only because it gets way too confusing for both of them to use the name Dani. She would punt anyone else who tried to call her that.
"I know, but I'll remind you, I'm just fine. I've done this my whole life. I got the distinct advantage, you know."
"One that you barely use," he argues. "Enough, you two," Jazz interjects, shaking her head fondly. "We've had this discussion every time Elle's on her way out. You know what we've talked about, Dani." "Boundaries," Dani mutters dejectedly. Dani smirks in victory until Jazz turns a pointed glare at her. "And you, young sister of mine, need to remember your life is not disposable." Dani shifts uncomfortably under her words and scrutiny. Yes, Jazz, she says in the same dejected tone as Dani. Jazz laughs at their antics and pulls them both into a hug. Oh, my dear siblings, you guys are hopeless. She releases them, and Dani gives Dani one final hug.
I'll be just fine.
Dani promises him.
I have the number for Fenton Works memorized. If there's emergency, I'll just call the house or get a nearby ghost to run a message. I'm even going to be closer. New Jersey's only 1,000 kilometers away from you.
New Jersey? Dani asks, a glimmer of curiosity in his eye. That's fair, honestly. Dani only ever mentions the country or general region she's planning on going to, and New Jersey is a much smaller surface area. What?
Okay, goodbye!
She grins at them both, gives a wave, and then flies out the nearby window to find Wolf. He graciously agreed to take her to New Jersey. Dani feels bad she's been using him as a convenient portal, but when she offered just to travel on foot from Amity, Wolf insisted he escort her.
This is the least friends can do for each other.
He asserted. Dani feels warm and promised him he could rely on her the same way. Coming from the princess of the infinite realms, that should be a pretty good promise to have. She and Wolf zoom through the zone, the beast-like ghost occasionally pausing to give her some spiel about the history of certain areas. Dani normally appreciates the stories, but she's anxious to get back to the mortal realm. Is he intentionally stalling her? When they finally reach a nearby wooded area, a couple hours from Gotham, but she'd rather bus in anyway, Wolf bids her farewell.
Call on me anytime, my friend.
He says, and Dani feels bad because he wasn't trying to stall her. He was trying to spend time with her. She gives him a huge hug.
You can call on me too. You know, we can go traveling together. Anytime.
Wolf nuzzles into her, and Dani squeezes him one last time.
Enjoy your family, small one.
Dani grimaces at the name, and the ghost gives a cough-like laugh at her expression before he reopens a portal to disappear back into the realms between worlds. Dani readjusts her bag on her shoulders, ensuring all the zippers are intact and tucked away. She usually doesn't like bringing her stuff into cities to prevent anybody from messing with it, but she wants it with her when she gets to Wayne Manor. She walks along the road until she finds a bus stop about 2 kilometers down. She pays for a ticket and joins the shaky drunk and the bored teen in boarding the bus when it arrives. The bus is old and gross, but Dani picks a relatively clean seat near the back and settles in. She tucks her bag between her body and the side of the bus, fiddling with the straps as the vehicle jerks into motion. It's a long and boring ride. Dani looks out the window for a little while, but she loses interest since it's dark, and even with her night vision, all the trees blend together into monotony. To stay awake, she pulls out one of her atlases. They're usually kept in her rooms, but she wanted to take this one with her. It's a well-worn, leather-bound copy from the late 1950s. She picked it up from a lockbox in Korea, gifted to her by a late Korean scholar she met and befriended. The journal is in Korean, but Dani knows how to read it. It's the perk of the language program Vlad used when making her. It's exceedingly easy for her to pick up on new languages. She wonders if that particular skill will fade over time. She hopes not. It's very useful. The atlas is full of history and details the geography of North and South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and China. It was one of her all-time favorites, for the story woven into each place. She reviews one of her favorite passages, the first-hand account of the spring cherry blossoms in Japan. Dani visited Japan in the summer, so she didn't have the chance to see them. The descriptions are beautiful, and there's even a very, very old imprint of what used to be a dried blossom pressed between the pages. The bus eventually rumbles into the outskirts of Gotham, and Dani immediately senses this change once they pass over the city boundary. The city is alive. You know, in a matter of speaking. Dani replaces her atlas in her backpack and once again secures the zippers. She pulls on the trolley cord to request a stop and stands. The bus screeches to a halt and throws Dani off balance. She rights herself and waits at the door for it to open. At 4:32 Monday morning, Dani steps foot on Gotham soil. She looks up at the grimy building above her, the smog coating the sky, and the chatter of the homeless staking out the bus for new arrivals. She smiles.
It's nice to meet you, Gotham.
Dani murmurs in ancient. She feels the city respond, a gentle tug to the shadows, insisting on a more formal meeting. Dani grins, ignores the homeless starting to size her up, and darts into the nearest alley, immediately disappearing into Gotham's waiting arms. Hacker Budette. Attachment, Cam 783 footage. Hacker Budette. My scanner picked this up. Hacker Budette. That blurry shape looks an awful lot like Dani's usual camera appearances. Hacker Buddy. You right. Hacker Buddy. That's definitely her. No question. Hacker Buddy. I'll let Dick know. Dani bows deeply to the shadowy manifestation of the city ghost. Lady Gotham wears a black ball gown draped in tattered fabric. Deep purple ribbons are the only color. The satin laces limp and dirty where they're tied. The bodice is an old corset style with a high collar and long sleeves, spotted with large rips messily stitched together with coarse black thread. The ghost also wears lacy black gloves, a wide-brimmed hat with a thick veil that obscures her face from view, and a lace parasol with more holes than fabric. No skin shows. Dani's not sure if she has any. The city ghost curtsies, her dress billowing in the empty space. They are in complete darkness, a realm where the ghost can view all that is happening in her city through the shadows and impose her limited power on the inhabitants. It's where they manifested once Dani entered the alley, and the only way Dani can see is through her impeccable night vision that luckily seems to work in even, complete darkness. Formalities complete, Lady Gotham scrutinizes her from behind the veil. Princess, Dani hears, though it seems to make no sound. It feels more like a shiver in her mind, a skirting of an imposing thought along her own consciousness. To what do I owe the pleasure of your visit?
I am here because this is where my family is.
Dani replies in ancient.
I met someone in Bloodhaven that moved back here. I have come to join him.
What is his name?
Dani wonders why she asks, but dutifully answers.
Richard Grayson.
There is no face to see, but Dani feels the ghost is smiling in amusement.
I am glad you have come.
So you don't mind if I stay?
Lady Gotham's emotions are bright and clear, but Dani doesn't understand the fondness and amusement.
You are more than welcome within my borders, young royal.
Thank you, my lady.
Dani replies. It feels like the ghost knows something vital that Dani doesn't. It doesn't seem malicious, more mischievous than anything. But the younger ghost is still suspicious. She feels laughter like grating metal in her head.
I'll return you to the streets. He's been waiting for you.
Before Dani can wonder why, Lady Gotham knows Dick is waiting for her. He's one of the millions that live in Gotham. The shadows untangle themselves from her and releases her gently into another alleyway. Dani shakes off the lingering darkness, squinting her eyes as they readjust to the light. Sure, still the middle of the night, but even just the mistiest street lights from down the street make it much brighter than whatever shadow dimension Lady Gotham resides in. Dani feels a gentle tug on her core, and somehow she knows Gotham will lead her to Dick. She starts walking. Sitting at the Bat computer, Dick reviews Damien's latest patrol report, his mind elsewhere. His source of stress? A little raven-haired, blue-eyed street kid that he chased away with his own stupidity. How did he screw up everything so bad? He should have cashed in one of the dozens of favors any one of his siblings owe him to wait at his apartment for Dani. He should have been there. Bruce was urgently pulled away for a months-long space mission. Something of dire importance, Dick is sure, but he wasn't paying too much attention during the briefing. Essentially, a half a dozen of the most important and powerful Justice League members were called away by the Green Lanterns to settle a intergalactic dispute that could cause the total eradication of the whole Milky Way galaxy. So yeah, Dick needed to fill in as Batman. He knew that. He was the only one who could pass as his father. For the most part, anyway. No, Jason, you can't use guns when you're filling in for Batman. You know this. But still, he should have thought of something. If Dani had come back any other time than Sunday night, Dick would have dropped everything to go pick her up. But she came back at the exact wrong time. He had been in the middle of a highly tense drug bust in the Batcave, minutes from running out to crash the drug lord meeting before Jason could, since he likely just kill all the guys. Dick simply hadn't had the time, and he was stressed, and he messed up so bad. So yeah, the last 2 weeks sucked. He's ridiculously busy handling Batman's affairs while also juggling all his siblings and their abysmal mental health. Seriously, Tim, those eye bags look physically painful. Get some rest. Please. At the same time, he tracks Dani's path through the city after she opened and then jumped out the window. Out the penthouse window! And tries to pick up the lost trail once she left the city camera range. So far, nothing. Tonight, while he reviews reports, Dick gets a notification on his phone and checks it to find his comment on his dad's post has reached 10,000 likes. Bruce Wayne himself was currently down with a second bout of dengue fever, contracted from his last trip in the tropics. Before Bruce left, he took a bunch of very convincing illness pictures to periodically update on his social media. The most recent is a selfie, Bruce in a hospital bed with a canola, a variety of medical equipment, and a peace sign, all with the caption, "Taking another sick day, smiley face. Keep my kids out of trouble." The Bat Kids, including Dick, who said which chandeliers were off limits again, I forget, of course spammed the post with taunts and claims of innocence, which were all pinned by an algorithm. Some random comments were liked and responded to, as though Bruce is scrolling through them in boredom. It's a fairly solid cover, to be honest. No Bruce Wayne appearances will be expected until he's thoroughly recovered, which could take months, given the severity of a repeat dengue fever infection. Dick sets down his phone and rubs his face. He's tired. Maybe it's time to put down the work and go to sleep. He does manage to get out of the cave, though he's delayed in getting to his bed by doing his nightly routine of making sure his siblings are getting appropriate rest. He has to argue for 20 minutes with Damien, bribe Cass, and physically hold down Tim on his bed until the younger boy's exhaustion takes over and he falls limp. Finally, Dick makes it to his room and collapses in his bed, not even bothering to change into pajamas. His sweats are close enough. He's too tired for this. The stress of not knowing where Dani is, and if she's safe, makes all the sleep Dick has managed to catch in the past 2 weeks flightly and unsatisfying. Even as exhausted as he is, Dick's sleep is far from restful. He can actually feel his consciousness hovering right over REM sleep. It's incredibly frustrating. When his door is opened a couple hours later, Dick is instantly awake. He sits up to see Tim peeking in, looking surprised at his brother's sudden alertness. "What's the matter?" Dick asks, swinging his legs over to the side of the bed. "And you're lecturing me on sleep?" Tim sasses, leaning against the doorframe with folded arms. "Did you rest at all?" "I tried, which is more than I can say for you." Dick shoots back, appraising Tim. "You snuck back down to the cave after I left, didn't you?" "I took a short nap." Tim lies. "Anyway, Bab sent me a message. Dani's in Gotham." Dick shoots out of the bed. "What? Where? Show me!" Tim rolls his eyes, but dutifully hands Dick the tablet he's been holding to his chest. Dick skims the messages, opening the image to see the characteristic blur he comes to associate with Dani. "Are there any better shots?" Tim looks at him like he's crazy. "It's not just that they're crappy street cameras. You got 64 FPS home cameras that can't get a clear picture of her. Do you really think it's a coincidence?" "What do you mean?" Dick asks. Tim lets out a heavier sigh than Titus after a long day of doing nothing. "Come on." Dick follows after him while Tim fills him in on everything they know about Dani's arrival. The when, where, and how long it's been since the most recent sighting of her going into an alleyway 20 minutes ago. "Bab set up an algorithm," Tim explains as he sits back down at the back computer and takes another long drink of his coffee. Yeah, Tim definitely pretended to fall asleep before sneaking out as soon as Dick went into his own room. This absolute menace. He pulls up one of Dick's home cams that has a close-up of Dani covered in grid lines. "Look at this." "You put a picture in a prison," Dick deadpans. "I'm gonna need more than this." Tim lets out another exacerbated sigh. Okay, maybe take an actual look. See how the depth of field suddenly changes on her image?" When Dick shrugs, Tim pulls up the image of Dick from the same photo and puts it side by side with Dani's. The depth of field on these particular cameras focus on movement. When something moves, the camera focuses on it so it has the best resolution. But you and Dani are the same distance from the camera, and so should be in the same depth of field. It doesn't make sense that you are in focus when she is not. She puts Dick's picture in the same grid, and yeah, the quality of his photo is way better than Dani's. He can't make out any of her features, while his own is only a few steps down from a mirror image. Your photo has a PPI of 286. Dani's, however, is 60. That difference doesn't strike you as strange? Dick remains quiet while Tim clicks on the square of Dani's grid. He pulls it up until there's about 60 visible pixels. He does the same to Dick's. Now look. See how the resolution fails the more you zoom in? With any normal picture, the pixels in close proximity to each other fall into a single pixel that best represents the color of the merging pixels. That's why some images can still be recognizable even if there's only a few pixels. But look at Dani's. Tim circles the cursor around some pixels. They're scrambled. Now that he pointed it out, Dick sees it. The pixel that should designate the shape of Dani's head are mismatched with the background. Some black pixels that should logically be her hair are where her face would be. There are only a few squares of Dani's characteristic blue eyes, and they're not even on her face. "That's weird," Dick says. "Now you're getting it," Tim patronizes, rolling his eyes. "This is deliberate. Every image I've checked is similar. There's no way to refine the image. I have to manually go in and replace each of the pixels, and I don't even know what she looks like." "Is someone scrambling it?" "Absolutely not. I purged a couple cameras of all coding. Same thing. Watching in real time. Same thing. I even set out a couple of drones around the area with a direct connection to my phone, so there's no interference, but same thing. This isn't something just with cameras either. Her voice is distorted on any recording. When she's at your apartment, anything electrical she's using has an effect on the energy output." He pulls up charts to show this, tracking all the outlets in his apartment, red lines designating small inconsistencies that match up to the timestamps when Dani was nearby.
You are a freak,
Dick tells his brother plainly.
Seriously, man, what is wrong with you?
Tim smirks and doesn't look at all apologetic. It was bothering me. Anyway, I think she might be a meta, something electric-based. It's a working theory, though. He leans back, viewing the screens again with a contemplative look on his face. I'm not sure how this would work, though, since it's so inconsistent. Maybe it has to do something with magic, like how certain grimoires can't be photographed? I'll have to ask Raven.
Please, just let it go,
Dick begs. I don't want you to scare away with your obsessive need to know everything. Tim appraises him, then looks back to the screen.
What if she's a plant?
She's not, Dick insists. He's done this too many times. Too many mind-controlled teammates, sleeper agents, brainwashed civilians, bribes and blackmail and threats and false pretenses. He's always wary of new people. He's always cautious. But there's just a part of him that knows Dani is good. She's just a kid. And sure, some of the entities in the past have been just kids too, but that doesn't make her any more suspicious.
Just leave her be, Tim.
Tim hums, considering, then shakes his head. Nah, but I will be discreet. I will only tell you what I find out if I have reason to believe she's going to be a problem.
You're the worst.
I'm aware. Tim shoots back, slurping his coffee obnoxiously before setting it back down and getting back to work. Let's see if Babs has any other sightings. Dick settles in next to his annoying little brother and watches him pull up the chat box in several camera feeds. Barbara, apparently, had been tracking Dani's sightings through the cameras to map out her path. They were kind of sparse, since Dani slipped in and out of alleys like a seasoned street kid she is.
Is there anyone on patrol right now?
Tim pulls up their trackers.
Jason.
Never mind then, Dick mutters. Of all his brothers, Jason is the last person Dick would ask to watch over Dani. Listen, Dick loves him to pieces, and Jason's very protective of street kids. But he's also unpredictable and all murdery. And he doesn't want to freak Dani out. Plus, there's no way Jason would agree to tailing her, especially if Dick asked.
Steph?
Just Jason, Tim reiterates, a little irritated. Besides, maybe sicking a vigilante on her isn't the right move. Let's wait it out. It's only 6 in the morning. In a couple hours you can head out and accidentally bump into her. But Gotham's dangerous, Dick insists. What if something happens to her?
We'll deal with it.
Another sighting pops up, a small blurb where Dani darts across an empty street and disappears into yet another alley. Where is she going? Did she already have a map? Besides, it's super early. Even criminals are usually asleep around this time. Gotham is about as safe as it can get. Dick grumbles. His nerves settle a bit when Dani chooses a bus once the lines start running again. There are cameras in all the public transportation vehicles, so they'll have eyes on her for nearly an hour. In that time, Tim starts working on another case before Alfred requests they come up for breakfast. With Babs manning the cams, Dick reluctantly joins his family for breakfast. School had just barely started back up, and Damien is dressed in his Gotham Academy uniform. He scrolls through his phone as he waits for the rest of the family to join the table. Cass is there as well, already dressed for ballet practice. Tim and Dick are the only other Bat kids staying at the manor, so once they join the others, Alfred brings out breakfast.
Did any of you get sleep?
Dick asks, miserably. Cass nods with a smile. Damien scoffs. His own version of yes. Well, Tim shrugs. Alfred fills Tim's cup with more coffee while shooting him a disappointing look. But the grateful smile Tim gives him in return ignores the reprimand. Dick and Damien have a protein shake while Cass drinks juice. Someone might be joining us today. Dick starts after his siblings make their way through a decent portion of their biscuits and gravy. So, no more nighttime stuff anywhere near the manor. Damien's attention is immediately on him. Tim and Alfred don't react, completely unbothered, but Cass beams in excitement. Family? Friend? She signs. I met her in blood. Her name's Dani. Cass lights up in understanding. Dick is sure she can read everything in his body that he hadn't said. The fondness, the worry, matching his body language with how he usually acts towards his other siblings. New sister? She signs a nonverbal cheer. Damien's eyes flick between his sister's hand and Dick. We hardly need any more riffraff in Father's house. Why not? Tim mumbles. We have you. Keep your mouth shut, Drake, before I shut it for you. Tim looks up with a glare, but Alfred pointedly clears his throat and the two brothers abandon their superficial spat. She's not riff-raffed, Dick defends. And she's important to me, so you'll be on your best behavior, all right? Cass's excitement is palpable, but Damien seems displeased. Not that there's any surprise there. I have class, Damien says, pulling away from the table. I will meet you in the car, Alfred. He stalks off, but Dick isn't so worried about it. Damien is always grumpy. He'll come around, just like he has with everyone else. Alfred doesn't seem surprised by the revelation, probably because he saw what Tim and Dick were doing down in the cave, and only clears Damien's plate away. I'll keep breakfast warm, should she drop by before lunch. Thank you, Alfred, Dick says, grateful for his unflappable pseudo-grandfather. Cass flutters her hands to get Dick's attention. Age? When she come? Where you meet? She stay here? She's 13, but she's tiny, Cass. She's so adorable. I just know you're going to love her. She's in Gotham now, and I'll go pick her up soon. She'll be here by the time practice is over. We met at the precinct. I'll have to tell you the whole story later when she's here. She probably tells it better than me, and I'd love to have her stay here. If she can. You worry? Her? Past week? Yeah, Dick confirms. She was who I was worried about, but she's here now. Hopefully, for a while. Alfred's hard luck reminds him to reel himself back and to relax his expectations. Dani is still very much a free spirit, and trying to pressure her to stay wouldn't end well, as he's already proven by child-locking the doors in his apartment. Cass glances at her watch regretfully. She taps it and then gets up and throws her arms around Dick. He returns the embrace and feels his beloved sister press a kiss to his hair. She looks at him and signs. She's safe. Everything okay? Thanks, Cass. Cass nods before she points at the door and then waves. She has to go to practice, so she heads out with a spring in her graceful stride. Cass adores new siblings. She's been overjoyed when Damien and later Duke joined their family. This was the first time she's be getting a sister, as Stephanie and Barbara were more her partners and best friends. Dick just hopes he doesn't mess it up again and drives Dani away. Not for the 100th time, Dick curses his father's terrible timing. Dick cleans up his own breakfast, ruffling Tim's hair as he passes to go back down to the Batcave. Tim's looking a little worse for wear. Alfred must have switched his coffee for decaf again, and the boys practically asleep on the table. The cameras show that Dani got off at the station near the shopping districts. It's pretty close to the outskirts, so she became even harder to spot until she reached one of the parks and dropped off the grid completely. Dick helps Barbara comb through the footage so they can come up with a radius where she might have ended up. So far, they narrowed it down to about 5 square miles. And that's if she stayed in the city. Dick doesn't think she could come to Gotham just to immediately cut through Heights Park and swim to the mainland. Seems a bit contradictory. But they can't find her leaving that area. She has a few options once she reaches the park, but not too many without cameras. There's the nature path that winds down the hill and out to the sea, the road down Crest Hill, and the road up to Bristol, where they are now. Is it possible she's heading here? Barbara asks over the comms. There aren't cameras in that first stretch of the road, but she should come into view in an hour or so if she's on foot. It's possible, Dick says, but I didn't ever tell her where I was in Gotham, and I guess it's possible she looked me up, but she never had that much interest in it before. Easily rectifiable with a single Google search, is her reply. I'm betting she's on her way here right now. Man, he's way more tired than he thought. Barbara's absolutely right. And since the universe seems to have some sense of humor, Dick gets a text from Alfred. You have a guest upstairs waiting to greet you in the dining room. Dick flies to his feet, shooting a quick farewell over his shoulder as he darts up the stone steps to Bruce's office. He slips through the clock, letting it shut behind him, and speed walks to the dining room he just left. The weight on his shoulders lifts the instant he catches sight of Dani, backpack slung over one shoulder, wild hair in her characteristic ponytail, and a curious expression on her face as she regards Tim's slumped-over form. She looks up when Dick arrives, pointing at his younger brother.
Is he dead?
To the world, yeah. Dick replies, and then he opens his arms for a hug and Dani jumps into them. He squeezes her tight, desperately relieved that she's safe and here. She pats him reassuringly on the back. Thanks for coming, he says into her hair.
Put me down,
she replies. He complies, albeit reluctantly, and Dani drops down to her socked feet and grins up at him.
Sorry to drop by unannounced. I was going to knock, but Mr. Alfred kidnapped me.
Dick glances at Alfred in amusement, the British gentleman raising a single eyebrow as he cleans up Damien's and Cass's plates. I merely offered you a ride, he intones. We were headed to the same destination. Dani smiles at him, already seeming fond of the butler, as she should be. Alfred is precious.
I was coerced into agreeing.
Dick grins when Alfred says blandly, I mentioned breakfast. Your one weakness, Dick says sagely. Food. As soon as you wash up, Miss Dani, I can bring out this morning's selection. He pushes through the swinging doors back into the kitchen with the dirty dishes balanced on his serving tray. Dani glances down at her hands and smiles sheepishly. The sink is through here. Dick directs, leading her out the door and into the adjacent bathroom. Dani washes her hands thoroughly with lemon-scented soap and then follows Dick back into the dining room. Here, sit wherever you like. Dani glances around at the different chairs thoughtfully.
Which one is your angsty brother's?
Dick smirks and points it out. She takes the seat immediately, dropping her backpack at her feet, her ankles looping in the straps. She brought her bag. Dick is deeply moved by the gesture of trust. He takes the seat across from her, sitting next to Tim's softly snoring form. The young girl focuses on Tim again.
I love that we're going to eat with a dead body at the table. Very Gotham.
He's not dead. Dick laughs. He's just sleep deprived. And Alfred might have switched his coffee for decaf. Young Master Tim did not need any more caffeine, Alfred says, carrying through 2 plates piled high with biscuits, fresh fruit, and sausage links. Dick already ate a little earlier, but Alfred brings out more to prompt him into eating his fill, in his classic subtle, read, passive-aggressive way. Hey, sue him. He's been stressed about Dani. Despite his attempts to convince his body otherwise, what he needs is a decent night's rest. He places one of the plates in front of Dick and rounds the table to place the other in front of Dani. Now, Master Dick did not mention any dietary restrictions, but I do hope you will let me know if you have any allergies or if there's anything not to your liking.
Thank you, Mr. Alfred,
Dani says, an innocent smile on her face.
I don't have any allergies that I know of.
And do you have any particular aversions to any other foods?
I'll eat anything, thank you.
Dani replies. She's so cute. Dick had no idea she could be so polite. Of course she'd be on her best behavior for Alfred. It's Alfred. But it's wild to see her with manners. Dick was sure she only knew how to be feral. I'm certain that was not the question I asked. Alfred chides lightly. I've heard you rant about lentils for 15 minutes straight. Dick prompts with a grin. Dani shoots him a glare.
Just because lentils are my mortal enemy doesn't mean I won't eat them.
The stark difference between how she treats Dick and Alfred is already reminiscent of every other Bat kid. She'll fit right in. Lentils, Alfred notes. Anything else? When it doesn't look like Dani is going to add anything else, Dick answers for her. Chocolate. Dani gasps, affronted.
That's not true.
And jam.
You're lying.
And most of all, she hates sandwiches. Dani leaps to her feet.
You take that back.
I don't know, Dani. If you don't tell Alfred what you don't like, he'll just have to take my word for it. Alfred doesn't confirm or deny this, but Dani takes his silence as agreement. The betrayal in her expression only makes him feel a little guilty. It's way too funny for him to feel bad about it, though. Dani drops back into her seat, sulking.
Fine, she mutters. I don't like lentils, or bonsonberries, or bananas. I don't like straight fish either, but it's fine if it's in a soup or something. Other seafood is good. Those are the only ones off the top of my head.
I will make note, Alfred says primly. Would you care for any juice, or do you have a different beverage in mind?
Surprise me,
Dani requests.
please.
Very well. And Master Dick? Milk, please. Of course. Alfred heads back into the kitchen. Dani immediately glares at him.
That was uncalled for.
Dick grins unapologetically. You weren't going to tell him otherwise.
I was trying to be polite.
She hisses. Yeah, and it was weirding me out. She rolls her eyes.
I can be polite.
I know that now.
I'm polite to people whom I respect, she declares, and Alfred is a man worthy of all respects.
Thank you, Alfred says as he re-enters the room with a platter of beverages. He sets them down in front of the two. It looks like he decided on plain ice water for Dani, who looks slightly disappointed in his choice. I'll be heading to the market soon. Is there anything I might acquire for you, Miss Dani?
Huh?
Dani focuses on the butler.
No, I have everything I need.
Just some basics for now. Thank you, Alfred. Very good, sir. Dani glares at Dick again as Alfred leaves the room.
I don't need anything.
Did you even bring a change of clothes?
Yes, two actually.
Toothbrush? Hairbrush?
Absolutely not.
Extra socks?
You need extras?
Pajamas?
Why would I need pajamas? I'll just take your angsty brother's thob like always.
Dick's about to explain that she probably shouldn't, but Tim beats him to it. Yeah, sure, take the demon's thob. It'll only demand your life in return. Tim is mumbling into his arms, turning his head to look at the two of them with bleary eyes.
That would be so funny, though, Dani argues. Imagine the gravestone. Here lies Dani. She will be missed, but not more than the thob she took to her grave.
Tim snorts in amusement. As if he'll let you take it with you to the grave.
You wouldn't honor my dying wish?
Dani pouts. Tim considers this. I'll bury you with all his thobs. Tim amends. Make him deeply regret killing you. Dani nods gratefully.
I couldn't think of a better way to go.
I already got you a thob for here, Dick interjects. And Dami's not going to kill you, even over stealing his pajamas. Tim scoffs. Probably. Anyway. Dani's eyes glitter in curiosity.
I want to meet him.
He'll be back after school's over, Dick promises. Dani nods and then starts devouring her breakfast. Dick follows suit, and after he pointed at his brother, Tim rolls his eyes and makes an effort to eat as well.
Do you always sleep on the table?
Dani asks Tim after finishing her second biscuit. Only when I'm drugged, Tim grumbles, glaring at his fake coffee. Actually, it was the opposite of drugging, Dick points out. Alfred took out an ingredient. I was fed something under false pretenses
Tim declares. I was deprived of a necessary ingredient. What happened to me was unjust. I demand. Alfred pokes his head out of the kitchen, eyebrow raised. Tim changes gears immediately. I'll take a nap after breakfast. He concedes. Alfred nods and retreats into the kitchen. Dani watches the exchange with laughing eyes.
I love him,
she whispers. Obviously, Dick says. He's Alfred. Tim nods along somberly. So, Dani, how long are you in town? Dani's amusement fades into something more awkward and uncomfortable.
However long you want me, I guess.
She adds a mumbled,
I'm sorry I ran away.
You're always welcome here, Dick promises. We already have a room ready for you if you want. There's a fire extinguisher in there, Tim adds, drinking some of his not coffee with great disdain. Dani glances at him.
Why?
Dick said you set your hair on fire.
I didn't start the fire.
You definitely didn't end it, Tim points out.
I hate you,
Dani tells him. Great, you'll fit right in, he quips back. Dani is taken aback by his response.
Excuse me? Who hates you? I'll fight them. No one's allowed to hate you except me. Wait, what's your name?
Tim is struggling not to smile. Timothy Drake Wayne, at your acquaintance. You can call me Tim.
I must avenge Tim's honor,
Dani declares. Dick laughs. Relax, Dani. Self-deprecation and sarcasm are Tim's brand of humor. Although, if you want to fight the brat, determine who gets to hate me the most, be my guest. That sounds like it would be pretty entertaining. Don't encourage her, Tim. But anyway, your room already has a few things. Dick stress buys. I do not. Tim waves his fork at him, looking positively gleeful. He bought you like 14 maps of Gotham. Shut up, Tim. And a blanket. You have to see the blanket. Tim? Dani watches the banter with fascination. She eats your cubed fruit like it's popcorn. I have his Amazon history pulled up. You should see his cart. Tim! Don't you have a meeting soon? Tim gives Dick a wicked smirk. Fortunately for you, yes. Unfortunately for you, it's not for another 2 hours. You promised Alfred you'd take a nap. Tim pauses, then swears very softly under his breath. Okay, you win this time. Tim takes another drink of his coffee before glaring at it accusingly, then stands up. It was a pleasure to meet you, Dani. I'll see you soon.
Have a good sleep, dead guy,
Dani chirps. Tim waves his hand behind him in farewell and takes his plate and cup into the kitchen. Dani shoves more food into her mouth, humming happily. Clearly, she's a fan of Alfred's legendary cooking. Now that they're alone, it's time to grovel. I'm sorry I tried to keep you in the apartment. I wanted you to hear me out, but I shouldn't have locked the elevator. Dani swallows, staring at her plate, then she glares at him.
Yeah, you shouldn't have. I refuse to be trapped. And if you do that again, I really might not come back.
Never, Dick vows. But please, don't just disappear on me. I thought I'd never see you again. Her glare softens.
I'm a bit attached. I think I don't plan on disappearing.
I'm attached too, Dick says. You're like my little sister. Dani looks back down at her plate, but Dick can tell she's pleased. Then she sobers and looks back up at him.
Family doesn't trap family.
I'm so sorry. And he is. Dani nods, apparently satisfied.
Fine, I believe you, and I'll stay, if you really want me to. I missed you.
There's vulnerability in her eyes, and she turns her gaze elsewhere, attempting to hide it. I missed you too. I really do want you to stay.
Dani avoids his gaze as she nods, and then stuffs her face again to cover it up.
How is your family?
Dick asks to change the subject, sensing that she needs a break from all the emotions.
They're a bit stressed with work things,
Dani says.
but otherwise good. I got to drop off my maps and stuff.
Did you put any in your favorites collection?
Yep, the museum nautical map and the hand-drawn city map from this lady by the docks.
I'm glad the museum one made the cut,
Dick replies, wiping imaginary sweat off his brow in relief. Dani rolls her eyes and points to her clean plate.
This was delicious. Did Mr. Alfred make this?
Mr. Alfred?
So cute. Well, I certainly didn't,
Dick replies.
I should hope not. You know better than to go into my kitchen.
Alfred interjects, exiting the kitchen with a platter of tea stuff. He sets it in front of Dani, who brightens at the sight. Now, Miss Dani, you asked for a surprise, and this is one of my personal favorites, English breakfast tea. It's a blend of Assam, Crayon, and Kenyan black teas. It's often enjoyed with a splash of milk or a spoonful of sugar. Dani's eyes are sparkling again. She reaches for the teapot, but Alfred gently pushes her hand away. It would be my pleasure to serve you, Alfred says, taking the teapot in his weathered hands. He pours it with the measured grace only Alfred ever seems to possess, the dark stream of tea sending curls of steam into the air. In England, tea is something to be enjoyed every day, often in the presence of good company. Very few in this household have a taste for it, preferring coffee. He cuts a cool glance at Tim's seat, as if hot bean water is better than hot leaf water. Dani giggles, and Alfred grants her a soft smile. Breakfast tea does have a lot of caffeine, but I've taken steps to reduce the amount. Too much caffeine is unhealthy for young growing bodies. Alfred sets down the teapot. Now, I hope you enjoy. I'll leave the addition to milk and sugar up to you.
Thank you,
Dani says earnestly. She picks up the teacup and inhales it. She hums approvingly and takes an experimental sip. Dick adores the way her eyes light up.
It's real tea.
Of course. Alfred stiffs, as though I, a good Englishman, would serve anything but.
I just haven't found any good tea in America,
she explains. Dani grabs the milk and pours a measured amount in as she continues.
I've tried all kinds of tea. I especially like matcha. Have you ever tried it?
I'm afraid not. Dani stirs her tea, adding another sprinkle of sugar after another sip.
It's Japanese,
Dani elaborates.
They really like their green tea over there, but matcha mixes in brown rice. It makes it kind of nutty. It's really delicious.
She takes another sip of her tea and hums contentedly.
Perfect.
She sighs. I'm pleased you enjoy it, Alfred says, and Dick can tell he's already fond of Dani. Only Damien enjoys tea, since Tim discovered coffee and switched his preferences. I'll be in the kitchen. He takes the tray back now that Dani is done with it and returns to the kitchen. I'm glad someone likes the tea, Dick comments.
Yes, well, having taste is fairly uncommon,
Dani replies, nursing her cup.
I'm not surprised you don't have any.
I prefer hot chocolate.
I suppose that's an acceptable alternative.
I'm glad I meet your high standards.
Dani smiles.
Are you busy today?
Yes, he is. He's so obnoxiously slammed. If it was just Batman gone, that would be one thing. But with several League members, including their biggest powerhouses, yeah, Dick is busy with damage control. It's not just like anyone can don the costume and pass themselves off as Superman or Wonder Woman like Dick can Batman. But Dani is here. Everything else can wait.
Not until later,
he answers. Want a tour of the manor? Dani smiles, and Dick is overwhelmed with a fondness for his little sister.
After breakfast, I'll show you my favorite chandelier.
And that is the end of Chapter 8. I told you guys it was a long one. Anyway, guess what? This only took me 2 days of just lock in and do it. Do it! It took me like Wednesday and Friday of just, I gotta go. I gotta do this. Because I'm a big procrastinator. It's a thing that I do. I have to literally set my schedule around locations because locations determine my motivation to do things. So I can only do homework if I'm at school, on college campus. That's a pain. Also, procrastination in school really hits hard. So does working. That also hits hard. But I did it. I said no more procrastination. You're locking in. You're getting this done. People depend on you. So I did it. And every time I do it, I was like, I remember why. So I really enjoy this. I really do. But anyway, so this is going to be my new schedule. I am going to be posting every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. So it's, bi-weekly. I can do math. I promise I can. I can speak. I can do that too. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy. Go give Queen Star of the Universe comments and likes on their posts. Go look at the fic yourself. Go read it. Go read it all. Especially if you are impatient, like I am somewhat impatient, and I say, I'm reading it now. I don't care. It's tagged in the description, like always. You know where it is. I'm also working on a way to get it like PDF version. I have an idea, I have a thought, and I'm going to work on it this weekend. I also need to get it posted on AO3. You can see my procrastination in progress. With that being said, I'm going to end my rambling. This is Jane Doe, and I hope to see you guys in our next reading session. It's been a while since I said that.